One of the biggest and most conversed topics in One Piece is anything involving swordsmen. From Mihawk versus Shanks, to Zoro talks, to newly developed Shamrock talks, we have many debates to cover. There are many things to go over when a swordsman is involved, whether that is what one actually is, or what does it mean to be the strongest one. That's when I got thinking, what if I rank the top 10 strongest swordsmen from weakest to strongest? Quick note is this video will be talking about the current alive characters only, so no Roger, Whitebeard, etc. And if you enjoy videos like this, my name is Verdix, and I make quality One Piece content weekly that you won't want to miss. To start off this list, we have King the Wildfire. This guy is of course able to clash against Zoro on Wano and even apply serious pressure to him multiple times. From his strength being able to throw Zoro across Onigashima and form a fire dragon that we can't be too sure of on the strength, but we do know is his strongest attack. The reason I say we don't know its full strength is because Zoro cut right through it and defeated him. However, the main thing when fighting King is you're going to have to figure out how to work around his Lunarian abilities. When the flames are on, he has incredible defense, tougher than that of even Kaido's, and when off, he can move so fast that Zoro doesn't even try to keep up with him. It wasn't until Zoro learned Advanced Conqueror's Haki that he was able to defeat him. Now, as for my thoughts on the guy, well, my main problem with him is that he's kind of a fucking dumbass. He taunts his Lunarian abilities by turning them on and off enough times that Zoro learns how they work. If he doesn't do this, he might win the fight if he was smart enough, but that's the thing. He's an objective idiot that shows off his abilities way too much. Not just that, but his endurance isn't helping him, as once Zoro gets past his tough durability, he is easily being put down. Also, I know someone is going to mention him, but Shiryu sucks. He's not going on here. Like, you can't argue that he would be king. He's just living off maybe being a final Zoro opponent, but yeah, he's staying off the list where he belongs. So yeah, 10's going to be king. Speaking of Zoro, he is next on the list. At first glance, this might be low, but when I go through the rest of this list, you're going to realize how this is where he belongs, ranked around. You guys know that he was able to defeat and cut through King, who has tougher durability than that of even Kaido. He does this when he unlocks Advanced Conqueror's Haki, as well as mastering Enma. He also did before this, scar Kaido himself in a quick clash and even had Big Mom warring for him. One thing to note about the fight with King is that he was able to be dealt multiple blows from King and have his energy be drained at bad times by Enma and still came out on top. Zoro is of course an endurance demon, as this was also after having all his bones broken from by Ocean's Divinity. Even after that, he was also able to, like I stated, scar Kaido. Yeah, this guy can survive nukes being thrown at him, and later on in Egghead Island, he is able to defeat Lucci, but not knock him down, and equally clash with a member of the Gorosei in Nusjuro, where both of them got sent flying back. I do believe that Zoro has the capabilities and the argument to defeat the next two men ahead of him, but I don't believe that he can defeat the men after those guys. The first man above him is Trafalgar D. Law. Now, the man is either massively hyped up or massively downplayed. It's no in between. I do see a lot of downplay for this man, I won't lie. There is really no middle ground with this one, so I know what I'm walking into when I say he's stronger than Zoro. In fact, I even made a video about it, in which I go over that Zoro does have better almost every stat, but you can't just determine a fight going off stat by stat. That's not how they work. Zoro is physically stronger, has the better haki, and is faster, but Law's awakened abilities are something Zoro is not going to have an answer for if he is hit. As when Law attacks Big Mom with these moves, they are hurting her internally, being a durability negation or dur-neg attack. No amount of durability could ever prepare you for these attacks. Now, these also do massive amounts of damage that breaks Big Mom's bones every time they hit and cause her to regenerate literally every single time. If she didn't have life or death to heal herself, then you can make an argument she would not be able to survive multiple of these hits. Now, I'm no doctor, but Big Mom's body works differently from Zoro's, and it's much more massive because of that, which by proxy gives her bigger bones that spread out farther. These dur-neg attacks would do a much more massive amount of damage if they hit Zoro than they were Big Mom, because of the fact Zoro's body is much smaller and would be getting affected much more than Big Mom's did. Reminding you guys that Zoro was only able to perform one attack off after getting his bones broken, and Law can produce these bone-breaking attacks multiple times as they can affect someone much more durable than Zoro. This isn't something you can just hockey away as Big Mom would have done it, and the moment they do hit her, they're doing massive amounts of damage. His endurance is one of the most underrated in the verse, as he can fight after getting beat up and shot for hours while having his arm get cut off later on, and then goes on to become much stronger. In Wano, he was using his room the entire arc, which drains his stamina, but can still go for hours fighting. Even though people will exaggerate the hell out of the stamina loss, Law actually does have a lot of stamina combined with endurance, even when using his ability. If Zoro does land a lethal blow with one of his strongest moves, Law would be done for, but I would say the same for if Law hit Zoro. He has outsmarted every opponent he has faced to land at least one hit on them, and he could definitely do this to Zoro, who isn't the brightest of the bunch. A lot of people are and still will underestimate the power of Law's durability negation. I know how it goes. It's not a who has the stronger hockey argument, because you can work around it with the right tools that Law does obtain. Even when hitting attacks like Gamma Knife, if hit to the heart, it can cause massive eternal damage that Doflamingo, who was massively stronger than Law at the time, only survived because he strung his organs back together. This is something Zoro cannot do along with heal himself like Big Mom did, and would be getting dealt much more damage than she did. There is an argument I am fine with of Zoro winning, but this is still my list, and this is why I believe Law beat Zoro. Like I said, I go in more detail here if you're interested, but yeah, Law at number 8. Now, above him is most likely the oldest member on this list in Nusjuro. We saw a bit of what he was capable of in Egghead Island, as he was able to speed through and destroy all of the Pacifista effortlessly, and even cut the entire top half of Egghead apart with just a slash. He also is able to equally clash with Zoro and take a big hit from Sanji and counter upon it. He didn't have like any interaction I can remember with Luffy, and the last thing we saw from him was Emmett released Joy Boy's Haki that forced all the Gorosei back to Marie Joie. Now, I'm gonna be real with you guys, both Law and Zoro can easily be argued to beat this guy, and the only reason I don't have them over him is because he is a Gorosei. He is one of the only two Gorosei on the Egghead that wasn't a bum, to be fair, so at least he's got that going for him, and he's most likely immortal and can regenerate as long as Inu lets him. He definitely can do something that proves his worth better in the future, as he's one of the only Gorosei that people will pay attention to, let's be honest. At least we got to see his Devil Fruit and other abilities that he has at his display, so for now, he's going to be at number 7. Above him is another elderly man, and Silver's Rayleigh. Being the right-hand man of Roger, he's bound to have some high-caliber strength. He was the one that taught Luffy Haki, and himself has all 3 versions of it, more than likely advanced too. His stamina and endurance seems to be great as well, considering he was no-diffing a young Marco and the rest of the Whitebeard pirates for 3 days straight and came out without a scratch. He also, for a short while, was able to suppress Kizaru until being pushed back and overpowered, and recently was able to scare off Blackbeard from killing Boa and stealing her Devil Fruit. Although he states he couldn't have beat Teach right after this, as for why I have him above the ones listed so far, well, I don't believe the guys like Zoro and Law have surpassed his level yet. While I would say Luffy has, he of course is on a completely different level than guys like Law and Zoro, and I can't confidently say that they would win against an old current Rayleigh. Despite the old age, guys like Whitebeard and Garp are still able to be monsters, almost impossible to take down. Rayleigh would follow alongside this. As for Nusjuro, well, like I said in his section, his feats aren't enough to convince me he can confidently beat Law and Zoro, and the only reason I do put him above them is because of his position as a Gorosei. Rayleigh is currently above these guys, but how does he do against the rest? Above him is the father of Shanks and Shamrock in Figarland, Garling. Now, with no on-screen feats at the moment, we will have to use some headcanon and speculation here. The reason I have him above Rayleigh is because I feel that it was the same way in their primes. As Whitebeard states, he was given his scar by someone who looks very similar to Shanks way back, and that couldn't be nobody else but Garling, especially when you look at a young Garling. That this makes this seem even more so to be the case. I mean, come on guys, him and Shanks look almost the same, meaning Garling was a guy that was able to stand toe-to-toe and overpower a prime Whitebeard. He was the champion of God Valley, where his encounter with Whitebeard most likely occurred. I do not believe overpowering Whitebeard was something Rayleigh could have done, considering his captain was the one fighting Whitebeard whenever they did meet. He also recently became a member of the Gorosei, replacing that bum Saturn, so he could not only have a double fruit now, but immortality as well. I get that headcanon isn't the safest piece of evidence for people to go off of, so if you want to discredit this, all up to you, but I would say this is more than safe assumptions to make, and until the story shows me otherwise, I have Garling over Rayleigh at number 5. Up next at number 4 is the man everyone in the community cannot stop talking about in for Garland Shamrock. Letting you guys know that during the making of this video, the most recent chapter is 1139, so this could change in the near future. As of what we have seen so far, he is the leader of the Holy Knights as Garling's position became open, and Gunko refers to him as the commander. The one display of offense we have seen from him is using his sword to create the Cerberus, a dog with 3 heads that he uses to shoot at Loki, in which Loki states he cannot survive. We do know, since this is just the beginning, that he will have much stronger attacks, and along with him being the hidden man on the Go Claim the One Piece panel, it is safe to assume that Shamrock is above the likes of Loki, who was able to not defeat but still put up a fight against Shanks. Shamrock's sword seems to be awakened as it has the Zoan awakening clouds that Luffy and Yamato has, so it's most likely safe to assume that his sword is awakened as well. Another thing is him being young and in his prime makes me more certain that he will end up more of a threat than Garling is, at least as an old man. And another thing he has going for him is that he has more hype surrounding him when it comes to the end of series and just future fights in general, as he has many lore and narrative pieces pointing to him fighting guys like Zoro, Sabo, Luffy, Shanks, so on and so forth. Garling doesn't have that level of hype surrounding him when it comes to his future battles. Like I said, it is only the beginning of Shamrock's debut during the making of this video, so if he does do some crazy feat, then he will be placed above this list, but this is where I feel safe for putting him around as of now. To start off the top 3, we have the Blade of the Admirals in Fujitora. We saw he could have beaten anyone he wanted to in Dressrosa, as he easily counters everything thrown at him and can use gravity manipulation that can weigh down an opponent, as well as drop huge meteors from the orbit. Alongside his Devil Fruit powers is some of the most insane observation haki, as being most definitely a future sight user, he can still know what's going on around him even without having his eyesight. He is able to easily combat Sabo in Dressrosa and goes unharmed. Speaking of Sabo, for the longest time, people assumed it was him that gave Fujitora the wound during the Nusjuro raid, but it turns out it was actually Greenbull. Speaking of, guys, I know people are going to say it, and I have to speak on it. I know Greenbull has a sword, and I know it's a black blade, yes, but come on, guys, I can't put him as a swordsman user, alright? He has never used it ever, but because I get it, and we might see him use it in the future, if he does, I would place him right here at number 3 and move everyone down a spot. Speaking of Greenbull, he stated that an admiral would lose face if he lost to mere commanders, showing that any admiral is easily above the likes of first commanders. As for the other guys, well, being based off the other admirals in strength, we see Kizaru was able to tire out Rayleigh pretty quickly with simple swordplay. If you had Fujitora going all out, holding him down with gravity, then he would be more than tired fighting Fuji than he was Kizaru. I would need a big confirmed showing to have me conceive the idea that Garling is stronger than an admiral, especially while being old. And as for Shamrock, well, this goes into a bit of an admiral versus Holy Knight debate, as the admirals are stated to be the strongest force both the Marines and the world government obtain, and even more so than the Holy Knights, are being set up for the final war with bigger battles. The Revolutionary Army is most likely going to be the ones fighting them, as the Knights are their main concern, and I think Shamrock will end up fighting Sabo. Fujitora had more going for him, and with the limited feats we have seen from both characters, we can confirm as of now that Fujitora is still over Shamrock. Now, being real, we knew what 1 and 2 were going to be, so I'm just going to discuss this in both their parts as one, as we have seen Shanks effortlessly one-shot Kid along with Killer, and we have just gotten confirmation that he became a Yonko by defeating Loki a few years ago, and during the making of Film Red, Oda also shared with us that his Conqueror's Haki is so strong that he can straight up prevent people from using Future Sight. And as for Mihawk, we don't have as many feats or statements, but we do know he can effortlessly slash frozen waves from the ocean by a no-named attack. He also did clash with Vista, but please go back and look at what they were doing and tell me they were trying. The fight was so pointless, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know why it was even made. But as for Mihawk versus Shanks, well, Whitebeard told us their duel would have been talked about to this day and was absolutely incredible. The main thing with this, however, though, is if Mihawk and Shanks fought, how would Mihawk have lost and gotten the title of the world's strongest swordsman? It would make no sense whatsoever. The only possible outcome would be Mihawk to have won. Especially now that Shanks has one arm, Mihawk even calls him a one-arm has-been while showing off Luffy's first bounty poster to him. Mihawk has to be stronger for his title to make sense, otherwise, what would be the point of him being the world's strongest swordsman? It would also mess up everything for Zoro's goal, as if Mihawk isn't the world's strongest swordsman, what would be the point of him being built up all these years to defeat him? It would completely ruin the purpose of it all. I also better not see anyone try to use that Mihawk is more skilled dumbass argument. We watch the pinnacle of his swordsman growing with Zoro, where we see he is becoming stronger and winning fights, not because he is, getting better swordplay, he's striking at it in a different way. No, because his haki is getting stronger. It's not like I'm saying this for the sake of a gender or anything. Mihawk just has the better argument here, plain and simple. And the plot requires Mihawk to be stronger in all sense of the word. Well, that's it for you guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that subscribe button and leave a like. It really helps with the algorithm and is very appreciated. As always, shout out to Tiberius. He makes quality thumbnails for me all the time. And if you would like some of your own, hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter @Verdicts_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.